Okay, so today the nugget is inspired by this man. All credit for the nugget belongs to this man. His name is Andy Frisella, and he runs a podcast called Real AF. Now, Andy is an entrepreneur, a best-selling author, a highly sought-after consultant, and a public speaker. And he has a lot of episodes. He's very passionate about what he shares with people. And on one of the episodes that I heard from him, he talks about something called complacency. And I thought complacency is a great topic because a lot of us have that feeling of complacency sometimes. So that's our topic for today. Now, he's asked several questions on the podcast that people send in to him, and he answers them very matter of fact without caring what people think. And that's the way we should be. So the question he was asked the other day was, what are the signs of complacency and how do you handle it when you notice it? I wish I could do this in his voice because the passion he has for it, I might not, but I'll do my best. So he says, honestly, I think it comes down to noticing when you start the compromise. Complacency comes from compromise, and the compromise in the beginning is extremely, extremely small. For example, you do 40 minutes of your workout instead of the 45 minutes. It's eating 3 biscuits that you know that are not on your diet program, that you're not supposed to eat. It's compromising on the quality of your product or your service, or cutting a little cost to make a little more money at the expense of providing inferior goods. That's where complacency starts. It starts at the first compromise. A compromise that you think nobody's going to notice, nobody's going to see, only I'll know. It's okay, because I'm going to do that extra 20 minutes of cardio tomorrow. I'm going to provide something else to the customer in return. That's where complacency starts, right? It creeps and starts with one little compromise, which leads to a second compromise, which leads to a third compromise, which eventually leads to nothing mattering at all. And once you end up in this, and this happens very, very gradually, it's like the frog in the boiling pot of water. It's like what's happening in the world right now, what happens in business and negotiations every day. The first little compromise that you give gives them more power. The second one, more power. And the third one, more power. And then to the point where you don't have anything left. This is the same thing with everything that happens in your life. Okay, so if you want to avoid complacency, you need to stop compromising on the small things. Hold your standards, hold your line. Get to a point where you understand that you're executing against the things that you said you were going to execute against, and do that. That's very, very simple to do. But getting to a place of comfort or getting to a place of complacency happens to everybody. And that's why it's important to remember about discipline, because discipline is a perishable skill. It is a skill, no mistake about that. It's something that you have to brush up on regularly throughout your life, over and over and over and over again. That's why whenever people say this fitness program they're on, or the diet plan they're on, or the business they're doing is not sustainable, well, no shit. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a tune-up for your brain. Just like you would go for a tune-up of your car at the garage, or a tune-up of your body in the gym. He says, I don't know how else to explain this. So anyways, everybody goes through this. And he was asked, so what do you do? What do you personally do when you notice yourself getting out of this? He says you need to tie it back up. You need to be honest with yourself and say to yourself, I'm slipping. We're not able to have that honest conversation with our own self anymore. We lie to ourselves. We tell ourselves all the things that we know that aren't even true, so that we can feel good in the moment instead of getting done what's going to make us feel good a month from now, or a week from now, or a year from now. We don't do those things. So he says, it's like you have to have a finger on the pulse of your own bullshit all the time. You have to be able to identify and be honest with yourself when you cut a corner. You cannot continue to say, oh, it's okay, because it's not okay. It's absolutely not okay. We think it's been okay all our life, and clearly a lot of us are dissatisfied about where we are. So let's stop saying okay because it's not. That makes sense? Well, everybody gets to a point where they feel complacent. All of us. Everybody gets to the point where they feel comfortable. It sneaks up on you and creeps on you like a ninja. And he says, I'm just telling you, it's your compromises that lead to that. It's the little compromises that you make when no one's looking, when no one's watching, that leads to complacency, which leads to comfort, which leads to you losing all your stuff. Whatever it is that you have, whether it be your physical health, your relationships, your business, your job, or whatever. It's not a very hard concept to grab. So stop compromising on the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves. You won't get to a point of complacency if you do that, or at least you will delay it. He says, be aware enough to look at yourself and say, you know what? I'm not getting what I could. That's a big deal, and most people lack that. They lack the ability to criticize themselves in a real way. They either overly criticize themselves and make themselves feel like shit, or they build themselves up to be someone that they clearly are not, and they end up getting stomped. The truth is usually right down the middle. Being able to honestly observe your actions and tell yourself the truth is a massive skill that people have to develop. It's called being self-aware. And so what is the truth of your situation? You really need to think about it. Are you actually giving what you could be giving, or are you just coasting along? Are you doing the little things, or are you not doing the little things? There is no way in between. Either you are or you aren't. And people think there is like a nuance. I'm kind of doing it. Well, I'm kind of doing it does not get it done in this competitive world. So we need to realize that we are competing against literally millions of other humans for a spot, somewhere in the realm of where it is that we decide we want to be in life. There are still a select few spots left. But someone else will get your spot because you're willing to compromise some of the time. And that's just reality. People like to talk about all this stuff, that everybody is going to win and everybody gets to win. Well, no, they don't. And that's reality. That's not idealistic thinking. Would it be cool if everybody got to win? Sure, I guess so. But then again, I don't know if it would be. Because then what would winning be? It would be average. Because when somebody wins, somebody has to lose. And people who lose are people who cut corners and compromise and get to a pace of complacency and don't recognize it and can't even have an honest conversation with themselves. And so their life falls apart. So if you don't want to lose, don't do that. Don't compromise and don't get